So I'm Christine Doan, and I am going to introduce how you use a Healy on a horse. And unfortunately, of course, we're outside because horses like to live outside, and there's a lot of wind. So this may be a little bit difficult to pick up, but if we have to, we'll just do a talk over and do it that way. But what we've gathered is a small group of people who are interested in horses and Healys and also in looking after humans with a Healy. One of them is right next to me. Nola was one of my first rescuers when I got a Healy the first time without any instructions or any help. And Nola was just an angel for me. So we're just always happy when Nola turns up. And she's not really a horsey person, but we're all glad to have her here. So we're going to talk a little bit about the theory of how this works. And so I'm going to change positions a little so that I can be talking towards you, not away from you. Do you want to be in the shade? Just take my place so that you're in the shade. Yeah. I think that Fendi will be interested to hear this as well. He's always interested in theory, this one. Work, not so much. Theory, great. So, how does a Healy work? This is a really important point, I think. And I've come up with sort of a model or a schema that sort of explains in layman's terms how this thing works. And the way that I look at it is that you've got a physical layer that sits on the top, and we're all pretty familiar with that. We can feel ourselves, go and feel a horse. They're very physical, and they've got a very strong body sense. But your physicality is not everything. What sits below your physical body? In your physical body, but what, apart from what we're looking at and feeling, I think it's chemistry, because anything chemical is also quite physical, isn't it? And you are doing, at this moment, each one of us, and he the same, we're doing a zillion chemical reactions every nanosecond. Otherwise, we wouldn't be alive. So your chemistry can be your neurotransmitters, your hormones, your whatever, but anything that's chemical sits in that next layer down. Now, most of our drugs and most of our medication is based on either the physical or the chemical, right? You go and do surgery, or you give somebody a pill. Physical, chemical. What's below the chemical? What two organs of your body are really dependent on electricity? Yeah, your heart is, certainly. What else? Your brain. So you actually, you can't be alive without a heart and a brain, or you fail to meet some of the definitions of being aliveness. So there's this electrical layer, but how does that interact with the chemical? Well, it interacts very distinctly and across many different reactions, because of course when you have chemicals, and that includes minerals and everything else, when you have chemical reactions, they create a situation where electricity at a very microcurrent level can start to happen. That is to say, if your cells all have a nice negative cell wall, they won't glom onto other cells. They'll stay at a respectful distance rather than sort of, it's COVID, so I can't come up and glom onto you, but that is not a way to communicate if you're just totally entwined, except on a pretty intimate level. And we don't know what cells do about that. We'll leave them to worry about it. But you have to have exactly the right electrical potential for all of these chemical reactions to take place. So the electrical is really important. But what sits below your electrical system? What sits below you, what's activating your brain and your heart?
Vibration, frequency.
Vibrations. So we're right to the depth of what Healy can do, because instead of starting at your physical level, or even your chemical level, or your electrical level, Healy starts with your frequency. Now, the way I like to explain this, and once again, this is not exactly a scientific explanation, but I try to make this easy enough for all of us to sort of grok it a little bit. if you think about it, everything that you've been taught is that once you get down to molecules and atoms, we're all space, right? We think we're pretty solid, we think we're physical, but in fact there's a lot of space. How is it that those particles and those molecules and those atoms that are really down at the very depths of everything that you do, how do they talk to each other? Because they got to be talking to each other, don't they? Otherwise, how's this thing keep running? How can I even open my mouth and talk if there aren't all these chemical reactions, electrical impulses, and communication going on? How could that ever happen? So it's my understanding of how the Healy works is it changes your ability of your most inside parts to communicate well with each other harmoniously, like this. So instead of having one set of waves look like this and another look like this, which would be sort of like this is trying to speak Chinese and that's trying to speak Greek, you get this. And Healy does that from the inside out. So let's take one more metaphor. We always think about, Michelle's a healer. Shalina has a potential for that. Nola obviously had she had a direction. She had a direction of healing because otherwise she wouldn't have latched onto a Healy for her relatives and herself. So if you think about the metaphor of peeling an onion, that's a pretty good metaphor, isn't it? You take a layer off and another layer and another layer, and that's why at 71, I've been building up my illnesses since conception, at least. That's a long time. It might take a while to peel that onion. What does the Healy do? Here's my favorite metaphor. If you think about that onion and you put it and you bake it, what can you do with the center of the onion? You squeeze the onion and it slips out, doesn't it? This is my favorite metaphor for healing. It starts from the inside of the onion and peels outward. You like that? I see everybody likes that. And of course, when you're using this, in part, you're peeling from the outside, but also because you're using these frequencies and these waves, it's also healing from the inside out. And we make that even more clear by using our Healy Analyzer app, which can transmit at a distance, doesn't require all this physical apparatus. So all of that vibrational frequency, my feeling about my own illness was that I had static in my head, I had static throughout my body. There was no way that I could, through meditation or breathing or any, changing my circadian rhythms, exercise, diet, nothing was getting in. Because my frequencies were like this. They were all over the place. They couldn't talk to each other. As soon as that started to smooth out, my innermost tiniest little bits of myself started talking to each other, and it was as though they'd all been squabbling and fighting before, and now they're all going to be friendly, respectful, dignified, and communicate well. And I think it's this smoothing out of the harmonization of your waves, of your vibrations, of your frequencies that does that. Does that make any sense? Scientifically, non-scientifically, because we're all amateurs at this. We know we are. So, Fendi, how did that sound to you? Boring as usual. Where's the food? Where's the carrots? Now, what we want to do is think about how we would put a Healy on a horse, because now all of you are quite familiar with these microcurrent armbands and whatnot. And we can find a way of doing exactly that with a horse. And let's just hear some of your ideas, ladies, about what we might do with our armbands and our horse. So what's the obvious thing?
Well, I think we need to connect to a Healy before we can connect to it.
Yeah, I was figuring out.
Yeah, we're going to get maybe around the hook or somewhere in the Healy to work. So
Okay, well-
where else can you put it before we do?
We figured that out,
I'm
but we'll
guessing
start
we
with.
will,
We figured that out. There are lots of places to put a Healy. But look, this is what we normally do, isn't it? What joint is that? It's your wrist, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what do they call that in medicine? It's your carpal joint, right? Carpal tunnel. It's about your wrist. Where's the horse's wrist?
Don't read these.
Because in fact his hoof is his middle finger modified so it can carry the weight of a whole horse. And the fingernail is modified to be a hoof. But this is actually his, and it's called this in science with a horse, carpal joint. So if this is just below or proximal, nearer to your body from your carpal joint, where would that be on this horse?
Yeah, it would be exactly there, wouldn't it?
Now, we can't fit one of these on that. You look at this great big warm blood, just give me one, and he's got lots of bone. Doesn't work. So we have tried this, just below. And I've seen video after video showing that people do this. Now, I don't know about you, but my horses stamp a lot, and they chew a lot, and they chase flies a lot. And I end up breaking a lot of cables. Because you can do it this way, but is it going to do what you want it to do? We have to find a way of getting this. Michelle, would you mind just coming around and strapping the other one on him? We have to find a way of putting this on him, don't we? So would it be here?
But wouldn't you
Don't be
turn
so
around
grumpy.
and bite that there though?
That's exactly the problem.
So would you go underneath?
Good thinking. What we have done is we've tied a piece of twine around here and just attached it to the twine. Pretty simple, low cost, but they all figure out a way of, or stamping and putting their head up at the same time and breaking another cable. So you can see how inconvenient it is to actually have this arrangement like this, which is often suggested, and fine, go ahead and use it, no problem. But let's be a little bit imaginative and think about all the other ways that we could attach to a horse. He's already demonstrating that he's going to wiggle. And of course, it's better, we don't actually have a good place to cross-tie horses. It's better if you cross-tie them if you do it like that. But let's hear from you lot. What's another way that we're going to be able to attach this to a horse? Yeah? Are you a horsey person at all? Yeah.
So can you go through here? That's got to be touching them though, doesn't it?
It does.
Sorry, Papa, you don't
No,
have
it
this
doesn't.
rush, do you? So can you do it?
This is great thinking, isn't it? This is where we started. Ha! There, good doing. Good doing. Now, how about an improvement on that? Can you think of an improvement? Who can think of an improvement on that?
No?
It could. We actually want, you figured it out, because you do want that.
You do want that
You want that against the horse. So, whoops. So we're going to want to
Go
put
underneath.
that way.
and then
And this is the way we do it. We strap that through there.
yeah,
And
and it's on.
it's on, it's tight, and we can make it so that the Healy then, I just have to find my right Healy, goes
Can hook up on
up here on something. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Can you do that? You're taller than I am. It's right out of the way of his mouth. The straps are right out of the way of the cables are right out of the way. We figure that's the best way to do it. And then we can easily get some water on it for those old style bracelets, or wet the horse's coat so that we don't have the problem of the dry hair.
Yeah.
And the conductivity should be quite good with that. What do you reckon?
So do you keep the head tied up? Because otherwise you can still bite it.
Yes, well, because Diana,
She goes
time-
everywhere.
well, yeah, but her time is valuable. Every human's time is valuable. So we want to be able to cross-tie the horse, put it in a set of stocks, or just tie it, if it's a quiet horse like this, tie it up close enough, short enough, that it doesn't manage to get hold of that thing, even if it thinks it's a fly. So how about that, ladies? I think that from here you can see that you could use a saddle to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I want you to be inventive and figure this out for yourselves, because you're going to be doing this on your pet hippopotamus, on your dog, on your iguana, whatever it is that your snake. Tell me how you do it, because we want to be able to give our best ideas to everyone else, and we haven't seen anyone else do it this way. So we think that we've invented a very clever way of giving
You could also, the dog harnesses.
dog
You
harnesses.
You could actually
Perfect.
do a very similar thing with the dogs with the harness.
Absolutely, and what we've seen is that people have used a harness to
Yep.
put a foaling alarm on a mare.
Yep.
Perfect for this.
Yeah.
You can just tuck it in. And this will become useful when we want to record the horse's vibration, because how can you get him to hold the Healy in his paw? He's not very good at that, and he's anatomically not built for it. So you see that we already have the Healy on his body, but without any other people or horses or anything. This is this whole business of how you help animals or people with vibrations. It's tricky because it's a holistic program, and it's your intention as well as your physicality as well as your electricity as well. It's everything is required. So we're going to run a scan on this horse, because we have the Resonance app open, and we'll start with all Healy programs. Now, how are we going to get this horse to have to do his resonance, to test the resonance? Because a human would normally hold the Healy in their hand. But look, I have the Healy against the horse. I'm sorry about that, Sandy, but I just can't. There we go. It's against the horse with no interference from me, so I can press the button and find out what and record his resonance. And once we got that recorded, then we can go ahead with the analysis. And I'm going to touch the horse. I'm going to ask you to hold the phone. And now I want to focus on the horse. I want to focus on positive intentions for the horse. And I want to focus on this not being me, but representing him. And this takes quite a long time, just because we haven't done one on this horse for quite a long time. Now, of course, I can't read this. Just be aware of the horse. We'll keep a hand on him. Okay, came up with deep cycle, chakra, and learning. So we're going to go straight back to another level of analysis. So we'll go to deep cycle. Where is Sandy? And unfortunately, I can't do these photographs terribly well. We have to do this in a more controlled setting. So now I'm going to try connecting to the horse again, clearing my own self, taking a few breaths, taking the time to feel positivity towards him and my best wishes for him.
It's interesting that she watching him too.
I think you become a really acute observer of yourself and your animals with this. Oh, it went away. Here we are. There, so we came up with deep cycle, breath of life, first application, renewal. I think we'll go ahead and run it. You ready, ladies? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to press action. We're going to do vibrate, and we're going to pick a time. Now, this whole time thing is quite debatable. Some people use seconds, you've noticed this, Nola, and some people use hours. So I think we'll just do 5 minutes and run his program. Now he is receiving the vibrations that the scanner decided on for him. Now, had we decided that we wanted to run a physical program, because that's what came up, we would have run the pink app, and then we would be using those. At the moment, we're just running with this. Doesn't need the cables, because with a blue dot, you can do it at a distance.
Much easier.
We just have him all packed up and ready to go for whichever came up, whether he came up with something that we thought, oh, there's a physical problem. We could have come up with something like joints or, you know, soft tissue, Michelle, and then you'd know that you really wanted to work on his physical level more than you wanted to work on a deeper level. And this is quite a deep program, is it not?
It
Deep
is.
cycle.
Yes.
So we'll see how he reacts to this. So I'll be checking in with the rider tomorrow on whether he had a different ride than usual. He looks like a happy boy.
Enjoying his treatment.
Well, it looks like he is. And of course, I'm glad you said that, Diana, because in fact, one of the words we can't use with this is treatment.
Oh.
And it's a no-no because this in Australia is certified by the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Association Administration, as a well-being device, not as a medical device. So please do not tell people that you're going to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate any disease. What you can say is, we're helping to create calm, harmony, peace, balance, willingness to work, performance orientation, whatever it is, but you're not allowed to say you're treating a disease. You're not allowed to diagnose a disease. In Germany you can with this because they've got all the proper credentials. In America it's sort of in a halfway state. But here in Australia the Therapeutic Goods Administration is very careful, and so we're protected from this device from overdoing it. And as we've seen, even though the TGA may think it's a nothing burger, so to speak, we know that there's something worthwhile in it, and we just have to use the right wording.